Hey, what's up, dudes? Back for another review of some gear. I haven't done this in a minute, but today is something kind of cool. This thing is called the YoloBox, and you may as well call it another PC. This thing claims to be a switcher, an encoder, a monitor, and a recorder all in one to basically create a live streaming piece of tech for you to stream over to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and wherever else you can think of. So get excited. We're going to learn about this today. It is called the YoloBox. Now, this thing was sent to me by the company Yololiv, and you can go check out their website. I'll link it down below. It's a pretty hefty price tag on this thing. I'm talking retail price of $999, although if you go to their website, you can actually click on their link and it sends you to Amazon, which shows that it goes for $799. So you guys can pick this up if you guys want to. But I'm here to review this for you guys so that you guys can maybe learn if this is something that you want. Now, there's a lot of pluses and minuses that go along with this thing, so stay tuned. We're gonna get right on into it. Now, this is a product that I think is gonna be pretty cool, but let's actually crack into it and see what we're gonna get. Now, on top of this thing being a monitor, it is actually a thing that you can start to plug in multiple devices in to have an all-in-one streaming setup that you can take on the go if you choose to. Now, you can also leave this plugged in, to your USB Type-C power supply, or you can take it on the go and, you can keep this thing. This thing has an internal battery, which will last up to like 3 hours-ish. I haven't really put that to the test, but you can keep this thing on the go with you and basically use this as a stream PC while you're running around doing your IRL streaming or streaming from your computer at home or whatever you think you might be doing. Maybe you're on set and you want to stream this, stream the content wirelessly to some other people, maybe some producers or something like that. So keep that in mind that there's multiple uses for this thing. We're gonna dive into it. I'm gonna jump into the pros and cons that this thing actually offers. This thing actually offers you the ability to plug in up to, I think, 2 HDMI sources, a USB source, so technically that could be a third HDMI source with a capture card. You can also plug in some audio with a 3.5 millimeter input jack. You also got a headphone out jack. And if I show you guys the monitor right here, here it actually is. It's a nice little robust monitor. It feels really good. It's heavy, but not too heavy. Maybe the average weight of like a DSLR or something like that. I don't know, it kind of feels like a small book or maybe a tablet. And it kind of looks like a tablet, kind of looks like a giant smartphone over here, but it's not. It is a monitor. And on the bottom side, you can see that there is an SD card slot, and there's actually a little plastic tray that sits here that kind of just keeps it nice. You don't get kind of dirt and grime thrown up in there while you're not actually using it, but you can put an SD card into there and start to take videos off your SD card and start to play them on your live streams, or you can also record onto it at the same time. So you can watch one video while streaming and record it all to your SD card if you choose to. Now, also on the bottom of this thing, you also got a little SIM card tray, and if you pop that bad boy out, you can pop in your, I think it's a micro SIM card. So I have a nano SIM card, so I had to get an adapter set to actually adapt a nano to a micro, and then you put the micro inside of this bad boy, and now this thing is an all-in-one streaming device you can take anywhere, kind of like streaming from your phone, but you're streaming from a monitor, and this thing will accept all different types of inputs. You do have an audio output, so you can actually plug in some headphones and take a listen to if you choose to. And on the top here, so you got USB Type-C, and that'll be to charge it as well as keep it charged. And maybe prolong its battery life with a little extension or like an extra power supply on hand if you have one. Then over here, you also got audio in, so you got a 3.5 millimeter cable to maybe plug in a Rode mic or something like that you may have that is a 3.5 millimeter adapted microphone. You plug that in and you get yourself some audio. Then on the top, you also got an Ethernet port. So if you were using this at a home base station, or you're in a situation that you have a router next to you, you can just directly hardline it into an Ethernet cable right there. So you can get your internet that way instead of the SIM card. Right here, you also got an HDMI out where you can view everything that's on this monitor on another source, another monitor, something like that. Or you can do a little loop through, which we'll get into right after we talk about that. There's 2 HDMI inputs, which you can send a loop through and have that loop back out to somewhere else if you choose to. And then you also got yourself, I believe it's a USB 3.0 slot. Now, I can't seem to find this anywhere if it's USB 3.0 or 2.0, but they boast that you can use a capture card to plug into this thing, and I actually have one right here. And if you choose to, this one actually made a little review on. It's a nice little 1080p 30 FPS capture card, and if you wanted to, you could simply plug this in here, and now you got yourself an extra HDMI slot if you need to. Although with this thing, I should mention that you should probably get a little USB extension. You don't really want to have this directly plugged into the source like that, because then you might break it, might snap off. So make sure you get a little tiny extension cable so this thing can maybe kind of hang off to the side and not get ruined. On the back, you also got a some information about your YoloBox, what kind of power source it takes, but it also looks like it has a little ventilation fan unit maybe here that maybe starts to cool things off if needed. Also on the bottom, you got a 1/4-20 threaded screw hole in the bottom, so you can mount this to your your arm or whatever you have. Inside the box, you get a couple of different features here. So if I open it up, so once you open up this case, you actually get a what looks like a book, and it's kind of a nice little unboxing situation. But on the inside, this is where the monitor actually comes in at. One kind of gripe that I had: this monitor was a hassle to pull out of this bab. It is in there so hard. The foam around this thing is keeping it all kinds of protected. But maybe that's good, maybe it's bad. But once you pull it out, you shouldn't need to put it back in. So we're all good. Also inside, you get yourself a nice little pamphlet, a little user manual. And the backside, if you actually unfold this little tiny this little flap back here that comes on the manual, you get a little tiny SIM card remover. There's like a little, you remove your SIM card out of the side of your your phone or whatever. This has the tool as well, so that's pretty nice that it kind of comes included, so you can pull out the SIM card tray and get it all installed. Also included is a nice little soft, velvety kind of material that you can kind of put the YoloBox inside of when you want to take it on the go. Now, the feeling of this isn't super clean. The monitor feels really good in the hand, but this material kind of feels like, maybe if you were at the Halloween store and a piece of costume had like velvet on it. I feel like this is the kind of material that you would use, but this is not going to offer you any sort of protection against your monitor taking any kind of damage. So keep that in mind. You do get yourself a nice little cold shoe mount ball adapter. So if you have yourself a DSLR, you can just slide that on there, screw it on, and then you would take your monitor here and you would just screw it into the top. Now you have your screen sitting on top of your camera or wherever you're holding it. So kind of cool, man. I'm very much used to this working in the film industry. I put monitors on top of cameras all day. Now it only has that 1/4-20 thread on it. I would love to see more 1/4-20s kind of all around the monitor to kind of mount it in different various positions and orientations and whatnot. And just from the look at this alone, my only other gripe physically about the device is that all the portholes are on the top of the monitor itself. So anytime you go to plug in a device, you're going to be plugging it on the top here, and everything's going to be coming off the top of the monitor rather than down at the bottom, where you kind of want cables to go straight down. You don't really want to have to, worry about cable management and cables being pulled on and then the whole monitor comes falling down and whatnot. So just a simple thing. It's not too much of a hassle, but just keep in mind that all the cables come out of the top of the ports. I mean, you do have the bottom audio out here, but that's that's just headphone monitoring, so you don't, if you need that, then there you go. So that kind of covers what's inside the box that you get here. The way I'm going to look at this is very much as a broadcaster on Twitch, and I've been a broadcaster since 2015, been partnered since 2016, and I've been making YouTube videos ever since like late 2018. So I'm not really going to talk here too much about making content for YouTube, because one kind of key thing here is because I'm a Twitch partner, much like affiliates as well, you can't stream to multiple platforms. Now, that is one thing that this device boasts, is that you can basically multi-stream, which is a huge feature, especially if you are a non-partner, non-affiliated streamer on Twitch. You can start to stream to Facebook and YouTube and Twitch all at the same time, as long as you don't have that that contract where you're stuck streaming on the one platform. That's Twitch for you. So with this device, again, you'll be able to connect multiple devices, such as like a webcam or your DSLR or a capture card. You can also put in a little SD card, which is a really nice feature. If you have some content that you put on an SD card, you can also put on overlays and whatnot. So if you have your logo in like a PNG format with like transparent background, then you can put it on there and kind of display it as like a little watermark if you wanted. This could be my setup right here, so I could sit here and power it on. Now, keep this in mind, and normally I would expose so you could see what's actually happening on this screen here. there's no brightness features on this monitor. So you can't, you know, the brightness that's set here, it's always max brightness. There's no, I couldn't find any way to turn up or down the brightness. So that is one kind of key thing that you might want to be aware of, and maybe that's not so battery saving move right there, but just keep in mind that that is a thing that this monitor doesn't have. Just to create a quick little thing here, you just hit the little plus symbol, you type in a create a live stream thing. This is after you set up your network and all that stuff, and just like that, now I have a little thing here that you can't really see. So now that we're a little darker, you can kind of see what's going on here. So if I just click on the little full screen, you can actually see that the webcam is actually what it's seeing. Just like that, it was a very simple thing. Like the camera was already recognized in the app here, and you can always add more sources and whatnot. So inside here, you can actually see all the stuff. You have the monitor feed on the left side. You got the usable sources on the bottom. And if you hit add source, you actually have a bunch of sources there for HDMI 1 and 2, USB. You got the SD card slot. You also have a live stream feature where you can inject, I think, a live stream into your feed. And then you also have picture-in-picture mode, much like, you know, having a, you know, your face cam in one corner and having your gameplay in another or something like that. So if I come back here and we go to settings, you can actually see on the far right-hand side, you get a video source switching mode. If you click on that, you actually get a couple different ways to switches between sources. You have click to switch or double to switch. So, I mean, that's kind of nice. You know, it's a little bit of a safety. So if I accidentally bump another source, it's not automatically going to switch over. So also on here, we got the SD card video switching settings, which that's all about like the card and what kind of videos you have on there. So if you have a video playing and you switch to a scene, that video can either keep playing, or if you switch back to it, it can start from the beginning every time you start back to it, or it can just pause when you switch to a scene. Then when you come back, it'll unpause and continue on there. So that's pretty cool. We also got the SD card management. Now, if you have some other files on here, or you record it on here, they'll all show up here for very easy access, and you can start to just click around and add what you want. But you also have at the bottom here, you have a HDMI program out, which was called HDMI loop out, which is basically like you send things out of your HDMI signal on the top here. And I was able to get it to actually send the settings screen that you guys saw and are seeing out through this HDMI port, which then I was basically sending that to a live stream and then recording that live stream. So yeah, at the bottom, what you guys don't see is a brand new update that came out literally when I stopped recording, was that they have this little thing called video source transitions, and it actually has a bunch of different transitions. So when you switch from one source to another, you can do a nice fade or a wipe or a directional wipe or a translation, window slice, simple zoom, cross zoom, squeeze, all these different features. Now, I was noticing that with some of these transitions, it was actually making the device work a little too hard, and I was actually losing frames while doing it. This might be fixed in an update future in the future, I'm not sure, but just keep in mind that the nice transitions that you might expect to see on Twitch from OBS or something like that, they're here, but they're a little bit slower. So if I did have another source here and I clicked fade, it's a really long fade. It's a I think the default on OBS is 300 milliseconds, but this is something like 2 to 3 seconds long, whereas 300 milliseconds is 30% of a second. So keep that in mind. Going out of the video transition, so also on the bottom, you got this little this little bubble with 3 dots on it. Now, this says no comments yet, and that's because this device will actually take your Facebook and your YouTube comments and start to display them live for you. So if you were live streaming to Facebook or YouTube, you'll start to see chat kind of flowing by here on the side, so you can monitor what's happening with your stream as well as your chat on the right hand side. Just keep in mind that there is no Twitch chat enabled inside of the monitor yet. So they did say, I talked to them about that, and they mentioned that it would be something that they might be able to add. It wouldn't be too much of a hassle. So maybe you would see that coming down the pipeline a little bit later. So also moving on, you also have the 1-to-1 thing. So they have a built-in scoreboard. Now, this is a very specific case use kind of situation where you can actually create a scoreboard on your screen, and you can start to dictate like how many points per team has. So if you're filming like your son or your child's basketball event or something like that, you can start to keep score if you wanted to, but that's your call. Back at the bottom, you have the volume monitoring area, in which at the top you have a slider that's all about monitoring how much is coming out of that little headphone jack on the bottom to your headphones. So you can actually up and down that with your little slider. So kind of cool that you can have all these different sets of audios. Now, here is one of my biggest gripes about this this box here, is that if you are displaying an image, whatever source you are displaying, that is where your audio is going to be coming from, and you can't have multiple audios playing at the same time. So if you load up a video from your SD card and you're playing that, you're not going to have a microphone to be able to listen to yourself talk about what you're seeing on the SD card, or if I have a camera over here and I don't have a mic plugged into it, and maybe I had a mic plugged into a secondary camera, I'm not gonna be able to hear that camera's audio. I mean, I'm only gonna be able to hear that camera's audio, but not the microphone that I've plugged in somewhere else, like the top here or somewhere else. So just keep in mind that there's not two audio sources that you can play simultaneously. Now, they said that they do want to have that for the picture-in-picture mode that's available on this thing, where you can have, you know, your gameplay screen and then your face cam, and then maybe you have a microphone injected there. They want to get that set up, but it's not there yet. So down here as well, you also have a bunch of different platforms to choose from between YouTube, Facebook, you got Twitch, and then you got a custom RTMP. Next, you got this little thing at the bottom left here, which is kind of like what looks like 3 layers, and I think that means that you're adding overlays and whatnot. So you hit this little plus symbol, and then now you can add image overlays or lower thirds. Now, built into the monitor, they already have some lower thirds for you, kind of like, you know, some on-screen titles, a scrolling text, and all that kind of stuff. So that kind of covers everything that you can add to the device itself. Now, on the top right, you do have yourself a little percentage on how much battery life you have left. You have a little icon showing you have an SD card or not installed. You have a little Wi-Fi signal. You got the time, and if you kind of swipe down, you get the same information again. When you see your video displayed here, you can actually set it to start to record on the SD card slot by hitting this little the little camera icon, and when you hit that, you would get the option to record to your SD card. Now, keep in mind that when you do record whatever's on your screen, whatever you are projecting or displaying or streaming, that is going to be saved to an SD card slot that you can re-bring into your program. So if I want to record something, let's say I was recording, I don't know, some ducks in a pond or something like that, and then I wanted to bring that back up later on in my stream when I'm somewhere else live streaming, I can go back into my SD card slot and load back in that clip so everybody can see the ducks. Now, the problem with this right now, and I think it's a bug, is that when you record on the SD card, when you try to bring it back up, it's not going to show it. It's going to display everything you had on the card when you first plugged it in. So to get around that, you would have to unplug your SD card, take it out, and stick it right back in there. When you plug the SD card back in, it'll reread the SD card, and then it'll see the file, and it's there, and then you can go ahead and add it from there. So that kind of covers everything about when you're actually live streaming. Now, at your main menu, you can see all your accounts you're linked to, your Wi-Fi, the language, your version. You also got some other information here, like your email, your serial number, and all that kind of stuff. And you also have a recorded video folder to go check out all your recordings if you wanted to. So on paper, this thing is pretty freaking sweet, but I do have my own gripes and issues with this thing, because when I was using it, I wasn't too happy with some of the results I was getting, and where that comes into is that when you start to plug in multiple sources into your YoloBox, it actually starts to cause a little bit of frame droppage. Now, this thing only streams at 480p, 720p, and 1080p at 30 FPS. Now, you can input all different types of footage, you know, 60 FPS or what, but it doesn't really matter. You're only outputting 1080p 30 or 720p 30 or 480 30. So keep in mind that when you start to add sources, that 30 FPS that you're sending out to your stream starts to dip a little bit. So you actually get like a little live feed on the top left while you're streaming, and it shows you exactly what kind of like FPS, what kind of what your bitrate is, and all that stuff. Now, another big gripe for me is that there's no way to custom set your bitrate. There's no way to custom set your quality or anything like that. And I'm a quality snob when it comes to this kind of stuff. For me to not be able to have full control over my stream's quality is something that was really getting to me right off the bat as soon as I tried to go live. So another thing I was noticing, that when I was going live, I was noticing that my frame rate would never lock into 30. I would get 30 sometimes, but most of the time it would be between 25, 30 FPS. Sometimes it would drop down based on your connection. Now, I did hardwire this thing right to an Ethernet cord. I tried Wi-Fi. I tried my SIM card. I tried every means of getting this thing to connect at its fullest. And I'm sitting here on fiber from Fios, Verizon Fios. So I get 1,000 up, 1,000 down. So I should be able to get the maximum, quality coming out of this thing, but plugged in even through Ethernet, I was only getting at maximum maybe like 2,000 to 3,000 kilobytes per second. So keep in mind that you don't have a way to set it. Now, what they do well is that the streams that you are producing, even though you are at this really low bit rate, I'm talking between like 200 kilobytes to 3,200 kilobytes or something like that. It varies in that, and the stream looks pretty good. Now, it's not perfect, but there is a lot of there is some artifacting that happens on screen, but for the most part, you're getting a pretty decent looking image when you are streaming via this thing, because when I look at it, I'm looking at live feeds. I have some recorded footage here that we can take a look at. So this was actually the recorded live stream here, and you know, for the most part, the image looks pretty good. You know, you might see some artifacting here and there, but for the most part, the image looks pretty good. I look okay, but there is definitely some little blockies. And if I go ahead and pause the thing here, you can kind of start to see the quality that's actually coming through. Now, granted, the bitrate's so low, and we're streaming at 1080p 30 that it doesn't look that bad. It is definitely not an issue. This is something very acceptable for something like a live stream. I don't think people would be complaining too much. Now, the frame rate, on the other hand, did drop here and there, and I did test a couple different options here. I tested taking my phone and turning on the hotspot and trying to connect to the monitor and streaming that way. That worked a little bit, but I really needed like a perfect sweet spot to stand in my apartment to get the best connection. It wasn't awful, but I was certainly getting anywhere between 10 FPS to 15 FPS at times. Sometimes I get 30, sometimes it drop all the way down to 4 and the stream would start to lag. So keep in mind that hotspotting off your phone isn't the best option, and I would recommend putting your SIM card directly into the monitor itself. You get a really stable connection. I sat at a nice 30 FPS for the majority of my tests when I inserted my SIM card, and it dipped every now and then, but nothing too visually noticeable that I saw. So going back to quality wise, it does pretty well for what it's limiting you at, but it's not good enough that I would be, you know, bragging about it. I pride myself on a good quality stream, and to be able to stream on something like your phone on its own does a pretty decent job. Now, comparing streaming off the YoloBox versus your phone, I'm gonna have to say, but I think the phone kind of wins. You have a lot more options here, and I'll get to the reasons why. But just to finish out talking about the YoloBox and the problems it does have, is as a broadcaster, something as simple as having, you know, your alerts pop up when somebody follows your channel or subscribes to you or something like that, or a donation comes through. You want to be able to have an alert that maybe pops up to give thanks to that person. And right now, there's no physical way to get a browser source onto your monitor. So there's no URL implementation. So just know that what you have access to is images, your camera feeds, and you can stream in another stream. So technically I could maybe stream in a stream of my OBS that is going to an RTMP server that I send back to here, and maybe it's just that on its own and just showing alerts on like a black square or something like that. But I'm not gonna be able to send transparency over that because it's gonna be looking at a monitor. You know, I can't do that. So just keep in mind that you won't be able to have alerts or anything pop up on here. Now, granted, you will have, you know, your phone on hand, so maybe you got alerts and whatnot popping up on your phone. So keep that in mind, that maybe that's the better option, is to kind of like watch your chat, your Twitch chat or your YouTube chat on here, as well as seeing when alerts come through, or follow notifications and all that stuff. One thing I did come into an issue with was every now and then I would be plugging in a USB a source, either that being a capture card or this little webcam, and sometimes I would go to like unplug, you know, my webcam or whatever USB source, and when I did that, it would actually crash the stream, and sometimes to the point where I had to restart the entire monitor to get it to show back up. And there was also some other various bugs here and there. You know, if I pause the stream, which doesn't actually pause, but if you close the stream and hit pause instead of close, if you hit pause and then you back out and you wanted to change your resolution maybe to 720p, and then you go back live, sometimes a giant green artifacting would kind of show up. You'd see a little bit of the camera on the top, but then like the rest of your camera feed would be all green and gross, and I'd have to physically back out of my recording session or streaming session and then go back in, and then it'd be fixed. One other problem I had here, when I did record to the SD card of anything I was doing on the YoloBox, now it claims that it records up to 60 FPS. I could not get 60 FPS to save my life on this thing, especially when recording. Now, when I recorded, when I look back at all my files, I'm getting these files that are at different various frame rates here. I got one at 23.16 FPS, 24.33 FPS, 28 FPS, 28.20 FPS. It was super wild and all over the place. So I don't really know that I could rely upon these recordings to be a final output later on, like uploading to YouTube or something like that. Just know that those clips are not, they're basically what you're going to be seeing as a live stream, is also what's being recorded to the SD card. Now, again, if you have multiple sources plugged in here, that might bog down the stream or recording session, and you're going to see that frame rate dip on the top left. So you'll know that I'm not getting the best quality I can. you're kind of stuck with whatever is happening based on what the box is doing for you. So if you record something at 30 FPS, you might get some frame drops here and there, but you're certainly not getting 60 FPS. You're certainly not getting 60 FPS recordings nor 30 FPS recordings. You might get it at times, but because it's always variable, you never really know. The only other things I wanted to talk about is that there was a funny little bug here that when I go into my network options, if I click on network, advanced network options on like a Wi-Fi connection and whatnot, there's actually no back button. So I had to restart the monitor every time I went into that setting on accident. So that was kind of one gripe. On their website, they do claim a bunch of stuff here, recording up to 60 FPS. We talked about that. It doesn't actually do it. Also claim that it's a standard SIM card size, when in actuality, it's a micro SIM card. So if you have a newer phone, you have something that's a nano SIM card, you will need to get an adapter to adapt your SIM card to the micro SIM card. So make sure that you get that adapter and you're already ready to go to be able to plug your SIM card in. I wasn't ready. I had to order an adapter after I got my monitor. Now, Yololiv also claims that you get a charger adapter as well as the USB-C Type-C cable. I only got the cable. I did not see any space for or room or anything for an actual charging adapter to plug into your wall. So keep in mind, it might not come with that, but most people have that in their homes already, so you don't probably need one. They also claim that there is no monthly subscription fee, and that is true, but just keep in mind that when you are streaming and when you are using this thing, you kind of do have you still are paying for it. You have to either use some sort of Wi-Fi that you're paying for, an Ethernet port that you're paying for, or for your modem and whatnot, or you are, paying for your phone to hotspot this thing. So regardless of you not paying a subscription to use this, you are paying a subscription to utilize your phone's internet, as well as maybe your Wi-Fi or your home internet, or maybe your local coffee shop if you really wanted to go stream just in the coffee shop. They also said on their website that you can connect a drone. Now, I couldn't really figure out a way to do that, and that kind of also comes into play with you can connect a tablet, a DV cam, a smartphone, and a drone, and those four things, I don't really know how you would do it. A couple different things that are going on here, and let me explain each one. With the drone, you are usually on your phone flying a drone via joysticks and maybe your phone's screen. And so once you're doing that, you're usually plugged into your controller via a USB cable or something like that into your controller. So you're already taking up that USB port that could potentially send out an HDMI signal. Now, that kind of covers both tablet and smartphone, because you're going to need that little output. In some phones right now, they don't have, like my phone, my Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus, I don't have an adapter to send an HDMI signal out of my phone. So keep that in mind, that if you have an iPhone or something like that, you may be able to get a third-party adapter to then send a HDMI signal into the YoloBox. My phone, my Galaxy S9 Plus, I couldn't send a signal from this thing to this thing. I tried a couple different ways here, and I bought a couple adapters. I tried my little capture card and everything, and nothing was really working for me. So keep in mind that your phone might not connect, your tablet might not connect, but you most likely will need a third-party adapter to connect to an HDMI cable to then send to your monitor, and then hope that it picks it up. Again, with the drone, you're already taking up that spot, so I don't really know how you would send your drone to your YoloBox unless you're doing something like an RTMP source, in which case I don't really know how that would work. Not only will you need internet to send that RTMP signal somewhere from your phone, but you'll also need internet for your YoloBox to also be able to stream off of. So you're already looking at two sources of internet to be able to stream your drone to your YoloBox. So keep that in mind. Now with the DV cam, DV cams, I don't know if they maybe made a mistake on this, but DV cams generally use composite or component cables. You plug it in, it's those like the yellow, white, and red cable, or you got the component, which is a little more, 1080i kind of situation where it's a little, it's HD, but it's not really like great HD, but it's still component and composite cables. Now, you're going to need some kind of device, like a third-party device, to be able to connect those to that device that will turn it into an HDMI source and then go into the HDMI source on your YoloBox. Generally, I think those things need power too, so you might be sacrificing a little bit of power on the top here to be able to use that converter box. And granted, there is that USB spot, so that's pretty nice. But consider that you might need to be able to use that. And I don't really know if you can use this as a power source. I don't know if I can actually like charge my phone or anything off this thing. I haven't really tested that. But keep in mind that to plug in that converter box, you're going to need to take up a spot, and you're going to need to power that converter box somehow. So two other things they claim on their website is that 720p at 2.5 megabytes per second. That's also 2,500 kilobytes per second. Now, it was rare that I hit anything above 2000 kilobytes per second or 2.2 megabytes per second. Very, very, very rare. But when I did hit it, it was nice, and it was connected great. But granted, that was when I was streaming 1080, 480, 720. It didn't matter. Now, they also claim that 1080p streams at 5 megabytes per second, and I tried that too, and it doesn't matter. Again, you're getting anywhere up to maybe, you know, up to like 3.5, I think was the highest I ever saw. But again, it's always variable, and I don't know if that's based on some sort of encoder or what it's trying to do to try to calculate how much bit rate it needs. But consider, you know, if you're out in the woods or something like that, you're going to need an encoder that is taking a lot of bits, a lot of kilobytes per second there to get a good looking image that's not super pixelated. So all in all, this device is really cool, but I think it's not really catered towards gamer streamers or people that are streaming video games or anything like that on Twitch or YouTube or wherever you might be streaming. This very much caters towards the person I think might be on set, someone like me who's working on a job that might want to send this signal to people that are working that job. Now, one cool idea that you could actually do is, for me, maybe I could bring this on set with me, put it on an Area Alexa or something like that, and then I could stream that feed to the cloud and basically start to send whatever the camera's sending to, you know, everybody's on set, their smartphones. They would all be able to see what exactly is happening. So maybe I could utilize this in a sense that I have a system that I rent out that I can send a wireless signal to everybody on set that wants it by streaming to YouTube, by streaming to Facebook, by streaming to Twitch, or an RTMP server. And all you would have to do on your phone is literally just bring up that stream, and you could see it live on your phone within a 5 or 6 second delay. So that alone is something kind of cool for me as a filmmaker, because like sometimes you do need to be able to send that signal to people so that people can monitor what's happening. Now consider a giant set, and you got people all over the place. Maybe a producer's, you know, a half a mile over there in a container looking over paperwork and whatnot, but he wants to see what's happening on set. Now, if I have this stream going and if I'm being paid for it, you know, maybe I'd be make sure I'm on top of keeping this thing working all the time, and I'd be sending that signal out. Producer in his office maybe has a monitor up just with that feed on it, and he's always able to see what's happening at any given time that this thing is powered on and working. So pretty cool when you look at it like that. You know, me working on set, this might be a cool feature for me to have on set. Now, me as a broadcaster on Twitch, I don't think I'm going to actually use this thing. I think it's cool, and maybe to go IRL would be fun, but as long as they get the chat feature from Twitch on here, and as long as they give me a browser source, then I would probably use it. But for the most part, if I'm going to use this or a phone to stream off of, most likely I'm not going to spend the $7.99 or $9.99 on this product. I'm going to be spending my money on a brand new phone, which has everything that I might need at the cost of maybe a kind of a ugly looking camera. Generally, most phone cameras don't have the best camera on them, but you know, you look at like Streamlabs' application or any application that allows you to stream, those are pretty dang good in terms of what they allow you to stream. Now, you know, everything is all right here. It's all in my hand. I have chat at my hand. I have browser sources. I have alerts. I have audio. I can maybe plug in a secondary camera source. I can capture my screen if I really wanted to. There's so many options with a phone that it doesn't merit getting a device like this to stream like how we normally do, us Twitch streamers or live streamers that go out on the go. So keep in mind that your phone might be a better case use for you to stream off of than the YoloBox. So just bear in mind that you may have something that's already working for you here, but you're not gonna be able to connect, you know, an HDMI. I'm not gonna be able to really connect this camera here without some special rigging and adapters that might be able to get this signal to here. Now, I would love for me to be able to use a capture card to send it to this capture card to send the thing to the phone. I would love this kind of situation right here. This would be my favorite situation. I would love to be able to have this as my monitor on top, as well as my streaming source up here on a little ball mount adapter that they gave you, and then just plug it in via HDMI or figure out a way to live stream this to this and streaming from this, which would be super cool. That covers the YoloBox, man. It is a cool piece of tech. Maybe a little bit high price for what it does currently, and I think with some time with them spent updating it and, you know, working out the bugs and all that stuff, I think they actually might be able to create something pretty cool. But it is going to take some time for them to upgrade it for us gamers. Now, again, I do think it's going to be really nice for me being on set, but I don't think this really caters towards the everyday Twitch streamer. So keep in mind, check their updates and see where they're at, because this thing is cool. On paper, it's very cool to have multiple input sources and be able to really stream all in one, you know, considering this is your PC right here that you're streaming off of. So I could hook my laptop up to the screen here. I could, then hook up my Lumix G7 or my Sony A7S as my webcam, and literally just have this sitting on a table somewhere and streaming anywhere in the world. As long as I got a little SIM card in here and I'm streaming off this thing, I could do anything I want. Like, that alone is super, super cool and super lucrative. It's gonna take some time to get to that point that I would take a little streaming, setup on the go, maybe to TwitchCon or wherever I'm going to be able to stream mobilely from the YoloBox. So consider checking this piece of gear out, man. Pretty cool. And thank you guys so much over at YoloLive for sending this over. Hopefully I wasn't too harsh on the product, but it is really cool. I think it's just going to take some time to get upgraded and whatnot. So that's it. That's the whole review. I hope this helped you guys out in determining whether you want this piece of beautiful tech here. Now, again, it is a beautiful screen and it feels really nice. I think just with time, it's going to get better. Is it for you? That's got to be something that you got to decide on. Now, for me, I'm going to be using this on set more often. I'm going to try to actually get some little rentals on this thing. I'll probably try to stick it on the camera, be like, hey, who wants to see the live camera stream? You know what I mean? So this should be pretty cool, man. Anyways, catch you guys on the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching this thing. It's a cool piece of tech, and thank you guys over at YoloLive for sending over the YoloBox. And hopefully things get better and this thing starts to look mighty, mighty nice. Thank you guys for all the support and subbing to the channel and liking and everything. All this, it all helps. So thank you guys so much. Appreciate it. If you could sub, cool, man. And maybe next video you can determine whether you want to stay subbed. Your call, man. No pressure. You're your own boss. I'll catch you guys on the next video. And bye.